COVID continues, pillows are prominent, and guns are gone. I'm Josiah Iverson, and this is The Glorious Rescue.
Aren't you tired of feeling forced to choose between staying informed and being indoctrinated? Listen to the condensed news cycle without the lies, agendas, and confusion from the mainstream media, all while engaging in deeper discussions about the principles that have influenced our great nation. This is what rescuing America looks like. This is The Glorious Rescue.
Welcome back to another episode of The Glorious Rescue. We have lots to cover. As you can tell in the headlines, they don't make any sense, but we're going to get into explaining what those mean, what they are, what the stories are. But before I do, I want to just let you know that I am really excited. I said there's some different type of content coming out in the next couple weeks. It is actually coming out for our very next episode. So make sure to hit that subscribe button. Make sure to hit those notifications and turn them to all. Make sure to share to your friends and family and all of that, because on Friday, we are going to be having a little bit different of an episode that I'm actually very excited about. Something with a little bit of comedic relief, hopefully, or at least a little bit of relief from what seems like the never-ending barrage of the news. But you may be asking, or at least you may be wondering, Josiah, you say that the episode is comedic relief, so you're not going to be in it, right? And so, unfortunately, I still am. So, might not be as comedic as you think it's going to be, or at least that I sell it to be. So don't get your hopes up. Let me just put it that way. But also, I know over the past few episodes, I've been encouraging you to subscribe for different reasons. I think one was out of benevolence, one was out of necessity. This one, I'm going to say out of faith that it's going to be a good episode. You want to continue to share this. You're going to want to make sure you do not miss our episode on Friday. And so for that reason, just go ahead and hit that subscribe button out of faith that it is going to be a better episode, or a little bit different of an episode, or whatnot, I should say. Also, I wanted to give a brief update on the story about AOC. I believe in my last episode, I talked about AOC mentioning how she basically made herself the hero of her own story. And she wasn't even in the Capitol building during the Capitol riots and all of that. So I wanted to make this clear. And that is that it is technically true. Technically, it is true that AOC never said directly that she was in the Capitol building during the riots. I don't believe I made that claim. I don't believe I made the claim that she lied. But to be very specific and to be very accurate, just to clarify, she didn't say she was in the Capitol building during the riot. She, just basically said she was so scared and she was fearful for her life and she didn't know what was going to happen. And to be specific, to do a little bit more research into where her office is, it's actually in a different building, about a 5-minute, 10-minute walk away from the Capitol building that the actual rioters breached. Mind you, and there's underground tunnels. That's how the representatives get from offices outside of the Capitol building through the tunnels. So anyway, she was safe, but she didn't necessarily and technically lie. I wanted to make that very clear before moving into our very first story, which is COVID, and COVID continuing. Guys, 2 weeks. 2 weeks is all we need. I promise. 2 weeks is all we need for us to figure out what this whole virus is and how we're going to go about it and what are the best precautionary measures against it. 2 weeks is all we need, guys. And a year later, we are still going through this. Still going through what is the COVID pandemic. There's more information on it. I think every few episodes or so, if you've been listening to the show, I give you a little bit of an update what people are talking about, things like that, so that you're in the know. We don't really get down into detail. We have in previous episodes, but not too much because it is discouraging, obviously. But I just want to keep you informed so that you are well-informed and well-educated patriots, as always. So first off, we're going to be talking about a Wall Street article, just very briefly, that the headline is as follows. Quote, "As COVID-19 vaccines raise hope, cold reality dawns that illness is likely here to stay." And the article then follows that basically COVID-19 could be here indefinitely. It could be just like the flu. It could be just like any other natural disease. It could be like any virus or like the measles. It could just be anything that, we're always worried about. And we can always, it says here, quote, "leaving society to coexist with COVID-19 as much as it does with other endemic diseases." So going from a pandemic to an endemic. Fear-mongering, I think, but nonetheless, this cannot last forever. I paid way too much money in taxes last year. I think we're all going through tax season. I just filed for my taxes, and I think we all get sick and tired of paying taxes. I paid a lot of money in taxes this past year, and I paid thousands and thousands of dollars for them to keep me cooped up, a law-abiding citizen, while they, let basically lawless people run the streets, raid, loot, riot, take what they want from any other store because they felt like they had the right to. And they let those people stay out and do whatever they want. But then they sent curfew alerts to me, telling me, a law-abiding citizen who pays thousands and thousands of dollars worth of taxes, to stay indoors because they want to let these other people riot, loot, and do what they want. And then on top of that, of course, keeping me cooped up during this whole coronavirus, rather than allowing me to dictate my life based off of what I think is actually, safe for me. Anyways, not going to get too far into it, but what I do want to talk about is something actually very, very important. And, there's a lot of uproar about it being called the quote-unquote China virus. Oh, that's racist and whatnot, even though you're not really talking about the Chinese people. You're just saying that the virus originated from China. Well, it does get worse. It gets a lot worse. And here's what I mean by that. That is that according to an article here over at the Epic Times, by the way, I'm going to be starting to post some articles and links to articles that I'm referencing the show down in the comments, or at least in the description below, so that you can reference it if you're listening over on the YouTube channel as well as on the audio platforms. You will be able to see some of these links so that you can go and do more study as well. Nevertheless, this is an article, like I said, over at the Epic Times, written by Frank Fang, and it says here that China accounted for about 51% of counterfeit or substandard COVID-19 related products seized by the U.S. customs officials between October 2019 and September 30th. So just in about a month's time, the U.S. customs officials, they are filtering all types of COVID, all types of health products, and they're searching for counterfeit items, and about 51% of them originated from China. So guys, don't buy your made in China products. This is probably one of the best arguments against made in China products, and this one specifically. And that is the fact that there were over 12 million counterfeit masks that they have seized just in 1 month, from October to September. Obviously, like I said, the number is about half of those are originated from China. So you have tens of millions, or 12.7 here, million counterfeit masks. And then you have test kits, hundreds of thousands of test kits, tens of thousands of FDA prohibited tablets, just like fake pills, I guess. I'm not exactly sure what those are, but fake products, counterfeit items to sell to people. In fact, they counted and they totaled that some of these products were estimated in total retail value of upwards of over $50 million in total. $50 million in fake COVID-19 stuff. One of them being 3M masks. We know that obviously 3M is a manufacturer of different health supplies. And on the box, it was basically forged, I guess, quote unquote forged. It was a fake box of 3M masks, and it even said made in the USA on them. Made in China, not 3M. Not actual medical grade masks like they said they were packaged to advertise. A lot of crazy stuff, but I wanted to, again, I will link this article down below so that you can do more reading into it as well. But again, be careful. Be careful what you're spending your money on. Be careful what you're doing, as always. Next, in regards to COVID-19, is the $1.9 trillion stimulus package. And I've said this over and over and over again on the show, that if we're going to send money to people, just send out blank checks basically to the U.S. citizens, then for the COVID-19 stimulus package, then that is what the money should go to. If you remember in the last stimulus package, there were millions and millions of dollars going overseas in the African region to help save certain birds, I think it was, and to salvage some type of species in Africa or something like that in the COVID spending bill. And there were tons of items like that. Millions of dollars worth, billions of dollars of wasted monies. And so I have stated before on the show, if it is going to be a COVID stimulus package, it ought to go to the American people. Again, this is a $1.9 trillion COVID package, and this is not, they have not actually come out with it yet. What they have done is passed a resolution to continue working on that. All Republicans voted against it. All Democrats voted for it, I believe, except with the exception of one. So split between party lines, as always. Another $1.9 trillion thrown down the drain. I don't know how much of it is actually going to go to the American people, maybe a few $billion, but $2 trillion in federal spending. Again, more money being sent down the drain, adding to our debt, I should say. The very simple matter of fact is that there will be ramifications for it. There will be repercussions for it. People will pay. And it is unfortunate that our representatives know that it is probably not going to be them, and that's why they are passing these items. Next, and this has almost become a staple in our Glorious Rescue episodes. So if you didn't know that, just know that episodes are released every Tuesday and Friday. Make sure to hit that subscribe button, again, another plug, so that you can stay up to date. As well as also to all of our new listeners who don't know, the theme of the show is very much centered around the idea of getting your condensed current events and being updated in a very consolidated manner on all the day-to-day news so that you can stay informed without being bogged down by a lot of the manipulation, the lies, and whatnot. And then on top of that, spending a good amount of time in end-of-show segments talking about deeper discussions. And so now we're also going to be going into a little bit different content just for your enjoyment as listeners, to bring to you something a little bit different, but it's almost become a staple on the show. The idea of exposing some of the hypocrisy. Humorous, yes. Frustrating, yes. But I do think a little bit more humorous to kind of distract from the severity of what we see in our nation. And this is first David Hogg. David Hogg, if you don't know, is one of the Parkland survivors at the Florida shooting several years ago. And he came out as a very big gun control activist, actually co-founded the March for Our Lives. And anyways, a big gun control activist. I don't know if I said gun rights. If I said gun rights, I severely apologize. Gun control activist. Very much against basically guns, to put it simply. All types of guns. Guns equals bad, according to David Hogg. And he is now getting into the pillow industry because the MyPillow founder or CEO is Mike Lindell. We obviously know Mike Lindell comes out with a lot of information that people would deem conspiracy theories and all that stuff. Be careful where you get your news from. That's why you should go to the Glorious Rescue. Anyways, not supporting what the guy says, of course, but he has come out very much in support of like election fraud and all that stuff as well. Anyways, that's Mike Lindell. David Hogg now wants to get into the pillow industry. Probably not because he thinks it's very lucrative, because who really grows up with the aspiration of getting into pillow manufacturing? Probably because he wants to compete with Mike Lindell. I don't really know. What I do know is that when I go to purchase a pillow, I go to purchase a pillow based off of the pillow, not really about the politics involved with the founders, with the CEOs. I could care less. I don't care about MyPillow. I don't care about the new competition that is going to be brought up against MyPillow by David Hogg. I don't really care. I really just care about getting the pillow that I want at the best price. And I think that is generally the idea of an economy. So I'm just throwing that out there, but I thought that that'd be a little bit humorous for you guys to know. Also, as well, a token, a monument given to Kamala Harris, 6 foot by 6 foot, apparently in broken glass, statue erected of Kamala Harris in front of the Lincoln Memorial. And broken glass because it's supposed to symbolize her breaking the glass ceiling or whatever. I can't get over this. I don't really understand what this is. All for women vice president, all for, African American or Indian or any ethnic group. All for it. Great. For instance, we had Barack Obama. That I think that kind of shows that America is not racist, because obviously there was a majority of Americans who voted for a black individual and did not base their decision based off the color of their skin. Same thing with Hillary Clinton. I don't really think voters really care female versus male or even ethnic group. And so why this is being heralded as some shattering of the glass ceiling? I mean, Nancy Pelosi, Speaker of the House, and I would probably say the Speaker of the House is more important than the Vice President. And it's not like we haven't had African-American people in our politics. We had a president just a few years ago. So anyways, again, not trying to shatter the legacy of Kamala Harris because I wouldn't dare do that. But I'm not really sure what the whole great monumental value it is. I think we should probably let her have her 4 years as vice president before we enshrine her in American history in all of her glory. Nevertheless, next is very briefly a story about Nancy Pelosi. And that is that Nancy Pelosi a few weeks ago came up with a new House rule. After the riots, she said, you know what? Every member of Congress has to now go through metal detectors, has to go through basically a little security screening before coming in. And the House passed this resolution just literally a few days ago. Everyone has to pass this security clearance now. And if you fail to do so, it's like a $5,000 fine, the first offense, $10,000 second offense, and whatnot. Well, a Republican broke the security thing or whatnot. He went out of the building to go to the restroom and dodged the metal detectors on the way back in because he was just trying to go in and out. Was fined $5,000. The interesting part is just a day or two after they passed this resolution, and literally, I should say, the day after this Republican broke the rule and was fined $5,000, Nancy Pelosi broke the rules And she broke this exact same rule using an alternate entrance so that she could avoid the security clearance. Not like she has anything to hide or anything like that, but she just doesn't want to be inconvenienced by her own rule that she wrote, that she created, that she brought forth. And she avoided it. And she will not, and she hasn't paid the fine. And so this is obviously trending all over social media, pay the fine or whatnot, pay up type thing for Nancy Pelosi. Because again, it is what Nancy Pelosi is great at. Rules for thee, but not for me. Anyways, thought you maybe get some comedic value out of that. I don't. I get some out of the other ones, but that one is kind of frustrating to me. Nevertheless, you judge it for yourself. Have a laugh. Have a heartbreak. Anyways, the last story is very simple. It's an evil bill. It's an awful, horrible bill that threatens our Second Amendment rights. I don't really want to get too far into it. It's H.R. 127. Again, H.R. 127 for your reference. And I want to give a little bit of a disclaimer that this is relatively new. I have not actually gone through and read the bill. I want to make that very clear. I don't necessarily have all the time to go through all of this point by point in this episode, nor have I had the time to go through the actual bill and read it. I'm not a lawyer, and it's extremely hard to read. So a lot of this is based off of the commentary I'm getting on the law. So again, some of you may know more information on this already, but just to break it down, what this means is you literally, if this bill is passed, you have to write out or send in, basically submit a list of every single firearm you own, make, model, serial number, and send that to the ATF. A list of it. Here are all the items, as well as, and this is according to the information that I have, as well as where you store those items in your home. I have these ones in my safe. I have this one here. I have this one here. With the serial number. Again, make, model, serial number, basically a description with the serial number and where you're going to store that item to the ATF. Explain that one to me. Explain that one to me as well as, this is what I'm hearing. Correct me if I'm wrong. Let me know in the comments. It will be available to the public. It's going to be on public record where you store this. So Joe Blow can, find that your firearms, you have these ones in the safe. You have these ones here and there, and they can break into your home. It's like, I heard it stated by one individual that it's like a shopping cart for criminals. Anyways, not only that, but you have to have a license, an annual license for guns and ammunition. Annual, meaning that you have to reapply for this every single year for 5 years, and then it's every 3 years after those first 5 years. Then, 21 years old for all firearms. For any firearm purchase. Now, that's already in California here, so it doesn't really matter at this point now for me, because that's been at least a year or two. 21 for all firearms, not just handguns. So basically, you can go off to war and fight for your family on foreign soil, but you cannot own a gun in your home to protect your family. Then psychological evaluations for every single, for every time you try to get this license. So when you go to get this license, you have to have a psych eval. This is done by a psychologist approved by the Attorney General. One of the worst parts is they ask, if you have an ex-wife, an ex-husband, they ask your ex-husband or ex-wife that some of the series of questions are asked to them. So when you are going to apply for a firearm, for your firearms license, just to be able to buy a firearm, one of the items to check off is that a psychologist has to go and ask and talk to your ex-husband, your ex-wife. Put that in the hands of your ex-wife, your ex-husband, of whether or not you can basically own a firearm. On top of that, you have to pay the government $800 a year, every single year, for firearms insurance. So you're not even paying for a firearms insurance company. You're paying the government to be insured by the government, which if anything ever happened criminally, the government is the one suing you. I don't understand that at all. I don't even know if that's $800 a year. All I've heard is $800 a year to the government. I don't know if that's per firearm or what that is, but I do know it's $800 a year. Next, if you've ever been diagnosed for depression, ever, or you are ever prescribed anything for depression, you are now not able to purchase a firearm. What does that mean if you own a firearm? I don't know. If you own a firearm and then you go in for depression, I guess that means that maybe they'll confiscate. Who knows? I mean, we don't necessarily know according to the script of the law. And then on top of that, if someone is now a firearms owner, now they're not going to go out and seek the help for their depression, for their issues. Who knows what kind of ramifications that have, but they're not going to go out and look for help because they are not willing to lose their firearms, not willing to lose the right to protect their family. So now they're not going to get the help they need because they don't want to lose the ability to protect their families and to protect what is rightfully theirs. Not only is that for a license for firearms, but now you have to get a special class license for the deadly ones, for the mass murder weapons, the assault rifles. the AR-15s, the AKs, I guess. You have to have a special license for those. But that's not it. There's more. 10-round limits. Magazines are limited to 10 rounds. So now you cannot have a 50 caliber clip. I don't know if you've ever heard that 50 caliber instead of, 50 round, because the number of people who own 50 cals are basically none. But anyways, magazines now limited to 10 rounds. Also, if you are subject or you're found guilty in any of these, we're not talking about small criminal charges. We're talking about possibly up to decades in prison, thousands and thousands of dollars in fines, and you have 30 days to comply, sending in that list of the make, model, and serial number. It's a large gun registry. Also, think about the fact that they have to now filter all this data. So that means that you are paying the government, as a taxpayer, you are paying the government to basically get every single piece of information on your firearms. Anyways, what can I encourage you with? Ultimately, pray. Secondly, reach out to your representative. This is a national congressional act. So that means we all can contact our representatives. It's very easy to find out who your member of the House of Representative is based off of where you live and contact them directly. Very easily. Do not do so for everyone else. Don't contact the writer of the bill, the author. They don't care. You are not a member of their constituency. Reach out to your representative directly. Email, call, tell your friends to do the same, but reach out to them and ask them to not pass H.R. 127. Now, that is how we are going to wrap up today's episode. I know we have not had an end of show segment last episode. We did not have one last episode. We have not had one in today's. I'm aware of that. We had a little bit more to cover, but that will not be happening again in the future. The goal is to continue to have these end of show segments. That is not something that is being put on the back burner. It is something we are continuing to develop. And just so you know, I am working very hard. I actually have a lot of content prepared for end of show segments. Maybe we'll be dedicating more larger segments of the episode to those segments. Maybe we'll be doing entire episodes in regards to those discussions. So stay tuned. Those are not something that are being placed on the back burner. Don't worry that they're going to be gone over the next couple episodes. But please make sure to tune in on Friday for our very next episode, a special episode that I'm excited to bring to all of you. So make sure to hit that subscribe button. Thank you so much for listening. I'm Josiah Erickson, and this is The Glorious Rescue.